This ain't Ziggy Stardust. But sit back. You're gonna like it. That is Jim Hawkins. Over there is Bud Bobson. You remember Bud, my bestest pal ever. You having a hard time, Al? And that's me, Alan Bland. You have found me on this particular spring day of 1976, way too stoned. Jim, I think I'm way too stoned. I remember I was 16. I can't remember what I took that day. Whatever it was, it increased the effects of gravity tenfold. My cigarette must have weighed 18 pounds. Jim, should a cigarette be this heavy? But that is another story. This one is about Jim Hawkins, that sleepy town spring, and all those drugs. Is this your first time? Time. That was the thing. We had so much time. Free time and inventive minds. Trying to estimate and then articulate Jim's influence on Bud is a challenge. Even without his abundant supply of world-class pharmaceuticals, you could say Jim was a gatekeeper. He opened an escape hatch, allowed Bud and I to be free of the confines of Sleepytown. And sometimes you didn't even have to leave the couch. But I digress. How about we just start here? So what do you say? No, I would never. Why would you think that? No, that would be crazy. In the late spring of 1976, I had a choice to make. The government mandated that of the 8 classes I had to take, I could not avoid 5 specific courses: math, history, science, English, and geography. The expectations of my family mandated me to fill out 2 more additional maths and sciences. But I had one course, or 1/8 of my formal education, one course that was mine and mine alone to choose. Or I had no choice at all. I was thinking about typing. With Mr. Scissors? Clickety click click click. Well, there is music appreciation. You know what you boys should take? Theater arts. What? Only girls take theater arts. Oh yeah. Start the hunt from the middle of the herd. Like shooting fish in a barrel. And if your record with a gun is any indication, your virginity is safe. The shotgun is another story. But this one starts when Bud and I signed up for theater arts. If you've been following this series, then you're probably aware that Bud and I did not make any headway with the girls. In fact, I think attending the class actually showed our weak underbellies, and in fact, the exposure decreased our odds of getting laid. Our responsibility in this act, Jim's personal circus, was sidekicks at best. Free labor, errand boys, or support staff. Or maybe we were just fans. Whatever it was, you just didn't want to miss out. With Jim, it was a tight wire act, in the middle of fireworks. Your head was too close to the speakers. You were neurologically impaired and being chased by the cops all at the same time. But I'm digressing. I promised to tell the puppet show story, so let's get to it. First of all, I don't know how the teacher, Miss Softspine, allowed Jim to get away with what. Well, actually I do know. She was an elderly matron, and Jim was charming. Again, another story. Anyway, one day Mrs. Softspine announced that the next few weeks would be dedicated to the art of puppetry. This work would culminate with a performance for preschool children down at the Sleepy Town Public Library. It was a road trip. Upon hearing the announcement, all the girls started to sew buttons on socks and began to practice squeaky voices. Jim planned an entirely different creation. First of all, he convinced Mrs. Softspine that the classroom was way too small to contain his vision. He must be allowed to go outside to create his puppet. True to his word, which Jim always was, he created a monster. As with many of my adventures with Jim, we began at the local dump. Jim had a UF-719 Korean War-era mine detector. However, this day, the device was not required. "Boys, give me a hand here." "What do you got?" "A dead dog." "Gross." "Nope, nope, no, nope, no, nope." "Come on, it's been dead it's been dead long enough." "Nope, nope, 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 we're going. Nope. Out of here." I guess we were demoted on that day. Perhaps more to the point, Jim told us to keep out of his way, and he went off on his own. For the rest of those 2 weeks, Bud and I just generally hung out, smoked cigarettes, and played basketball. We saw neither hide nor hair of the puppet until Friday, before the Monday performance. We went up to Jim's room. That's another long story. Like the time he dared me to find his handgun. Anyway, we were in Jim's bedroom when we first met Frankie Jr. This marionette stood about 4 feet tall, and he was beautiful from the ground up. The soles of his shoes were solid lead. These boots grounded the beast and gave the little man a steady platform. Jim had found a boy's suit and used his sewing skills to make the appropriate alterations. His hands were made of papier-mâché, and the nails were clippings from a horse's hoof. His head was papier-mâché as well, and if the eyes were the window to the soul, Frank's were most suitable. Black cat's eyes marbles. Their blackness was at a depth where it was easy to get lost. And he had the classic neck bolts, but one major deviation from the Frankenstein motif was the goat horns. The hair was perfect. It was made from the hide of that dead dog Jim found at the dump, and the teeth as well. Well, like I said, Frankie Jr. was horrifically beautiful. This puppet was a masterwork, and I haven't even got to the best part. Frankie had a tube running into the back of his neck that ended at the beast's tonsils. So like I mentioned, it was 1976, and the band Kiss had more than captured our attention. All that weekend we worked on trying to get little Frankie to turn into a flamethrower. Load, lock, 3, 2, go! Oh. I don't know, boys. Those back teeth are getting a bit charred. You gotta blow harder. Shut up. No, it's true. If we could get that fuel moving faster. I don't know, boys. Not enough time for a rebuild. We're going to plan B. Not a bad thing. I was thinking fire and books. Well, buck, 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 buck. Despite that day's disappointment, we eventually got to ignite some gunpowder as part of performance. Inside the school. It was a finale of sorts. No, Jim, no! Stand back! How we never got expelled or arrested, I will never know. Looking back, God bless Mrs. Softspine and her tolerance for artistic freedom. Anyway, Monday morning arrived, and I remember waiting outside the library on a crystal clear morning. I remember watching those children walk in. Back in the day, there wasn't a lot of early child care education, and this performance would be a big event for the little tykes. They had no idea. Jim had demanded that we headline, so as the girls and their sock puppets warmed up the crowd, we had time to slip out and smoke a joint. The stage was a small riser with blankets that hid the puppeteers from the children. The plan was, Bud and Jim would manipulate Frank Jr. from behind this curtain, and I was given the job of floor director. I would sit off to the side where I'd have a clear sight line to both Jim and Bud and the crowd. I would provide cues. But my main task was to scout out the crowd and identify any potential troublemakers. Again, remember that the audience was mainly 3- and 4-year-olds, so this title of security came with more than a few jokes. The youngsters sat perhaps 10 feet away from the stage. They were on a set of stairs that made for theater-style seating. We knew Mrs. Softspine would not present a problem, but we were worried that some of the library ladies would interfere at the wrong moment. I don't know why I have to keep saying it, but Jim was no idiot. He had done some preemptive work before smoking the joint. He'd schmoozed the library ladies and previewed the theme of our performance. He told the ladies the underlying message behind our performance was, "You can't always judge a book by its cover. The work examines prejudice on a level that's palatable for the little children." It would be a positive message, and Jim advised the library gals to be patient and allow time for this theme to develop. The penultimate act finished, and we started. In a well-rehearsed move, Jim and Bud threw Frank Jr. over the curtain. Roar. Children, remember how we talked about make-believe? It's just a puppet. Whoa now. Don't be scared. Come on back. Sit down. Oh, come on, don't be scared. Are you afraid 'cause I'm ugly? And he was away. This opening reaction was more than we could have hoped for, and Jim went into the meat of the message quicker than originally planned. I monitored the library ladies. They seemed fascinated with the performance. They helped out a great deal by calming down the kids and herded them back to their seats. As I scanned the young tykes, most of them were wide-eyed beyond belief. I could not keep my eyes off one young lad who was sitting in the front row, dead center. And later telling him this story, we called the kid Casper. In a gravelly voice, Jim told Frank Jr.'s story. It was a sad tale of loneliness and despair. Frank Jr. complained that he was feared and unloved only because of his appearance. And this was not just. Perhaps the kids could help him out. I must admit this part of the performance kind of dragged as Jim got off on some weird tangents and lost some of the youngest. I was born in a dump. It's hard to make friends in a dump. Ravens and rats, that's all I have. Ravens can be fun, but they tend not to stick around. And if the rats, if ever there was a fair weather friend, it's a rat. It's all happy chatter when there's food, but as soon as that ship starts to sink... Jim read the crowd and got to the final act. Now I may look rough, but I ain't a bad fella. I'm sorry I scared yous. I would like to apologize. I am sorry. Would you forgive me? Would you? Would you accept my apology? Is there a forgiving soul amongst you? Janie, do you forgive the man? He said he was sorry. Can you forgive him? Apology accepted. Accepted, Mr. Frank. Thank you now. Is there anyone brave enough to come up and shake old Frank's hand? Seal the deal, as it were. We could shake hands on friendship. Anybody? Anybody? Does anybody want to be my friend? One of the library ladies decided we needed some help. A move I would suggest would haunt her all of her days. What about you, William? Do you want a new friend? William, why, that's a fine name. I knew a Bill from Budapest. Budapest Bill, I called him. As young William started on that faithful journey, Bud loaded Plan B. Over the weekend, we had decided on the best consistency of ground beans. The beans needed to be big enough for proper aerodynamics and small enough so they didn't clog up the works. Bud loaded up. Once the tyke was close enough, I was to give the go signal. I could see that Jim and Bud were eager to go. William, however, was not so eager. His little hand was out and ready, but his feet had stopped working. He was teetering. I saw something where I thought he was going to back out, so I gave the go code when William was still about 4 feet out. And the rest is history. The flight of that vomit was something I hope I will never forget. I believe it was still in the air when the room started to clear. There was a cacophony of high-pitched screams as the children ran from the horror. Bud and I laughed our asses off, and Jim remained in character. Sometimes a book cover is accurate. Sometimes you should avoid the ugly people. And on he went. Kids clamored to get away. No one listened to the library ladies pleading for calm. They trampled the fallen and rammed themselves into locked doors. All except little Casper, still sitting in the front row. He was quietly talking to himself, and if my lip-reading skills were accurate, he kept repeating the mantra. This is not real. He is only a puppet. This is not real. He's only a puppet. And that was chapter 10.